Well, good evening, or good morning. Golly, it's 1:45. Well, welcome to the broadcast. What we're going to talk about today is: do standardized test scores matter? And if they matter, how do they matter? My name is Willie Lawson. Uh, Here's the deal: before we get knee deep in bureaucratic buzzwords and educational jargon, let's be clear. This isn't about blaming teachers or demonizing public schools. It's not. But it is about calling out systems that are indeed failing children, especially in communities that politicians love to campaign in but never deliver for. All right, first thing first. Why do we even bother with standardized testing? And because a lot of people, because standardized testing is taking a real hit as of late, and there's a reason why we do that. Because it gives us a starting point. Because you have to start somewhere, right? These tests, reading, writing, mathematics, aren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but what they are measurable. They let us compare outcomes across schools, across districts, even across states. And if we want to know whether kids are learning the basics, not feelings, not vibes, but actual literacy and numeracy, these tests are one way to find out. So when a school has 5% of its students reading at grade level, that's not a cultural difference. That's educational malpractice. Accountability starts with knowing the facts, and standardized tests, for all their faults, give us data we cannot afford to simply ignore. We can't. So let's be honest. There's been a backlash to standardized testing. Some of it fair, some of it foolishness. Because the fair part is that no, tests do not tell the whole story. They do not. They don't measure creativity or character or critical thinking or perseverance. And they can be biased. They can be, especially if curriculum and preparation are not aligned across communities. The foolishness that the tests are oppressive. They're a tool of white supremacy. Or asking a child to show mastery in reading is somehow culturally insensitive. Come on. We're talking about teaching children how to read and add, not colonizing Mars. So, if a district has a 70% fail rate in basic math, the answer isn't to abolish the test like some districts around the country has done. The answer is to fix the instruction. Right? We got to stop letting political correctness cover for poor performance. A child struggling to read doesn't care about your equity task force. They need a teacher who knows how to teach phonics. Or as we used to say, be able to teach pahonics. Okay. All right. Here's what happens when we get too soft on standards. Kids graduate, but they can't fill out a job application, even one of the ones online. College remediation rates skyrocket. Now, I remember, because I'm old, I sort of remember things, that those of us who went to community college had a chance to take remedial classes. Now, I don't remember that my peers, my contemporaries, who went off to a 4-year school right away, got a chance to take a remedial English class so they could pass freshman English. We had a chance at community college to do that, and I think a lot of it was because we had people who had been out of high school for a while and that kind of thing. But now, college remediation is ridiculous, and colleges hate it because people go teach at a college, not to teach remedial math, to an 8-year-old, to an 18-year-old, or a 17-year-old? Didn't you just get out of high school? Didn't you just graduate? Didn't you just take English 4? Because you had to take English 4 to graduate. So why are you here? You know? Because employers stopped trusting diplomas. Because they found out that people were getting diplomas and can't do the basic stuff that the people needed to do in their businesses. But they had a diploma. They had a high school diploma. They had a diploma. So you know who loses the most in this scenario? Not rich white kids. It's poor children and minority students. That's who loses the most when we don't have standards. When we decide to put bumpers in, get rid of standards, lower them, get rid of them entirely, poor children and minority children suffer the most. Because when the system lowers expectations in the name of compassion, what it's really doing is locking these kids out of opportunities forever. Here's the conservative truth. If the numbers are bad, they should make us feel uncomfortable. If you have only 33% of the kids in your school that are reading at grade level, and this is the school, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not. Some of you who are watching local want me to name names, but you can go onto the Florida Department of Education website and find out for yourself. If you're a middle school and your reading comprehension at your school, your ELA passage is 33%, and you are predominantly black middle school, that's a problem. It's not a problem because it's a problem. And what should happen is it should light a fire under every superintendent, every school board member, and every community leader. And yes, if the principal has been in charge of a school with a failing test scores year after year after year after year, it's time for them to go. They're not doing... The old school thought. The principal should be the master teacher. That's the person who should be the master teacher. That's the person who should be able to walk into the classroom, almost doesn't matter what classroom, and say, what are we doing? And teach the subject. They may not know all there is to know. I mean, you may have somebody who was, I don't know, a PE teacher. And now they're the principal. And now you're doing chemistry. Does that principal come in and with the periodic table memorized? Probably not. Probably never had it memorized, right? None of us, we like to pretend that we did, but none of us did, right? But that person should be able to teach a class. That person should be able to take over for the person that's in that class and teach a class. Be able to present a subject in a way that students get it. That person should be the master teacher in the building. If they are not the master teacher or working towards being the master teacher in that building, then what are they doing? Let me go down a rabbit trail. I've always been of the mind that there should probably be two head administrators. One for facilities, somebody to handle the plumbing and the electricity and the heating and the cooling and the custodial staff and the lunchroom people and all that stuff. Making sure that the stadium is good, making sure that the fountain out in front of the school is good. There should be a person in charge of facilities, and there needs to be a person who is in charge of education. And that is their only focus. Making sure the kids learn. and they should both be highly paid. Taking care of some of these high schools, the facility is a big deal. Facilities manager is a big deal. Making sure those places run is very, very important. All right, back to what we were talking about. All right, here's a pivot, and we got to get this right. We have to get this right. Test scores are not the final word. Test scores are not the final word. They are not. They cannot be the final word. Okay? But they are the first question. If a school is doing poorly on tests, like you've got 33% of your kids reading at grade level, what curriculum is being used? And in a district like the district I was in, everybody is on the same curriculum. So it's easy to answer that first question. Are the teachers being trained and practicing in science-based reading strategy? Are they doing it? Everybody's been to PDs, especially at the beginning of the year, and everybody's whining and complaining that they'd rather be in their classrooms getting ready. But not only are they being trained, but are they using science-based reading strategies? This is when your educational principle comes into play. To make sure they are. Are their parents involved? I said that I wouldn't mention school names, but I'm going to mention a couple for those who are around here who may have some idea. Two elementary schools come to mind. One is not far from my house, and I live in the hood. It's Shihai. Shihai comes to mind because it was named after Dr. Paul Shihai, who used to be my doctor, my pediatrician. Wow. And another is Alafai Elementary School. Alafai Elementary School is in Bloomingdale, which is a really nice area. What Alafai Elementary School has over Shihai, in the first place, the first thing, and it isn't money. Although money is important, it's not money. It's parental involvement. It's parental involvement. So it's important. And what's the discipline and the attendance numbers? What's going on in the building? What's going on in the classroom? Are kids coming to school? Frankly, after COVID, people just freaking forgot how to school. They forgot how to do school. Kids forgot how to do school. Parents, especially, forgot how to do school. Hell, teachers kind of forgot how to do school. So we need to make sure that people are in the building. And when they're in the building, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Okay, so let's flip the script. So if a school is crushing it, school's got 80% in reading and math, and they are just tearing down the road. Let's see what they're doing. Can we replicate it? Can we fund it somehow? Can we promote it? We need three things. We need competition, choice, and transparency. No more just consultants with buzzwords. No. All right. I'm in Florida. You guys know that. So I'm going to talk about Florida and some specifics for just a little bit. In Florida, in some districts, we've seen some improvement and some backsliding in others. Hillsborough County, where I am, has schools that score in the top 10%. And we have some others that are scraping the bottom. That they may even be in the same zip code. We have this thing called centralized funding here, so hell, everybody's getting the same amount of money. pretty socialist system here. Centralized funding. Everybody's getting the same amount of money. So what's the difference? Leadership, expectation, and execution. Who's in charge? What are their expectations? Are their expectations being passed down through the ranks? The principal through the administration to the teacher, to the department heads, and the department heads down through the teachers, and to the teachers to the students and the parents. Expectations. What do we expect? I think one of those things that schools ought to do is when they send out the welcome packet, they should be really big on this. These are our expectations. These are the expectations for our principal. These are the expectations for our administration, assistant principals, deans, whatever you got. These are the expectations for our department heads and team leads. These are the expectations for our teachers. These are expectations for all our paraprofessionals. These are the expectations to our children, our kids, our students. These are our expectations for them. And these are our expectations for you, the parents. What? What are you talking about? Yes, the parents. Because these are your children. You cannot abdicate responsibility for their education to somebody else. You can't just outsource that and then throw your hands up like you're not responsible. You get the tax break for them, you got to help teach them. You got to help raise them. As long as you get the tax deduction, you got to raise them. I don't get the tax deduction for your kid. Don't give it to me and say, "Oh, he's your problem now." Afraid not. I don't have to feed him. I don't get the tax deduction. He's your problem. His education is partly my responsibility, but he's your problem. That's the deal. Okay? And then execution. Are those expectations being met? Are those expectations being met? That's where the A word comes in. Accountability. Holding people accountable. Nationally, the trend is troubling in states like Illinois and California. Some schools have no children, 0 kids proficient in reading or math. You don't believe me? Look it up. Some schools, can you imagine having a school of children that are not in some way addled, that they're not in some way special needs, and none of them are reading at grade level, or at math, or doing math well. 0. Yet these schools are fully staffed. See, I know some of you who are watching, you go, well, what about so these schools? A good number of them are fully staffed. They're fully funded, and some of them are getting praised for their diversity initiatives. Hey, I got a bizarre, out of the box idea. Let's praise the schools and the children and the teachers and the administrators and the parents of schools that actually do well. How about that? All right. So if we want kids to succeed, gotta stop playing games. Gotta stop messing around. We have to first hold schools accountable for outcomes. Now, this is outcome-based education. Well, you know what? You can design the outcomes to where they are reasonable for the school. Let me get into the weeds just a little bit for a few people who are watching, who are administrators, have been administrators, and ex-teachers, or current teachers. The school that is a Title I school and has 97 free and reduced lunch has a certain demographic of kid and a certain demographic of parent. That's not being racist, that's just being real. And the school is UC elementary schools that are not Title I, who have 3% free and reduced lunch. Only 3% because that may be one child, right? Those schools are probably going to have different expectations on what we're going to call successful outcomes. I mean, I'm trying to put this as nice as I can. They're going to have different expectations of what's a successful outcome. So you set that up beforehand. You may say that this school, this school that's a Title I, that has 97% free and reduced lunch, in order for them to be successful, their number, let's say on ELA or English proficiency, has to be 40%, which is still painfully low. But it's a big jump over last year, where their actual performance was 33. In order for them to be successful, they're going to have to hop up 7 points this year somehow. Huge jump. But and that's just an example off the top of my head. 7 points may be too much. You might have to go to 4 points or 5 points, right? But you create an expectation. You create a goal and then you meet it, which would be different for the non-Title I school. So those of you who are saying, well, you can't compare them because... You got to start somewhere. Second thing, obvious thing. You have to start supporting good teachers. Now, a lot of you will say, well, if you just paid them more, they'd be better teachers. You know what that's like saying? If you pay the running back more money, they would never fumble. They would never get tackled. If you just paid them more. Do you see how silly that sounds? So if you take a teacher who isn't very good, and I know it's hard to even say that for a lot of people, there are people in school districts that aren't very good at their jobs. They're not good teachers. They're not good administrators. They're not good janitors. They're not good custodians. They're not good HVAC people. They're not good at their jobs. So thinking that they're all good and if you just paid them more, it'd be better, is kind of silly. Because what you need to do is find the bad ones and get rid of them. And supporting the good ones, yes, part of that is pay. No doubt. No doubt. Part of that is pay. Part of that is supporting them in the classroom. Making sure they don't have to put up with stupidity and craziness. Not increasing their workload for the sake of increasing their workload. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't it seem like that sometimes people who've taught? Doesn't it seem like that sometimes that downtown, we used to call it downtown, comes up with these initiatives that, hell, you don't have time to do what you're doing now, and they're going to ask you to do something else? What? That's not support. Giving parents real choices. And I've said this forever. If there's something that the mom who lives in the housing project and the mom that lives in the gated community, if there's something that they have in common, what they have in common is that they want the best educational venue for their child. The one that lives behind the gated community, in the gated community, has the options. Be real, they've got the options. The mom with the kids that live in a housing development, in the projects, in subsidized housing, They probably don't have those choices readily available to them. But the systems can give them choices through vouchers, through school choice. That's what needs to happen. Give them some real choice. And, very important, refuse to pretend that lowering the bar is being compassionate. Don't buy the myth. Don't buy into the BS that pulling down the standard so more people get over it or close to it is kindness. What's kind, what's compassionate, is equipping people to succeed. That's the kindness. That's where the compassion kicks in. When you are at full tilt boogie, helping people accomplish their goal, seeing them be successful. It's really, and I think, let me talk about black folks for a second. It's really kind of a slap in the face to black people when you say, hey, I know you're struggling. I know you don't have this, you don't have that. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to make it easier for you. Because we know that you can't do that. We know that, yeah, we sat you next to white kids. We sat your parents next to white kids. But you still don't, you still don't have it. So what we're going to do to make you feel better about yourself is going to lower the standard so you get it, so you get a little bit too. Because we know you're not very smart. And we know you're not very capable. What a racist piece of crap thing to say. The bar should be high. And because our kids can clear it. If we stop coddling failure and start rewarding success. Again, the tests aren't perfect. But they are a mirror. And if it's not a mirror's fault, it's not the mirror's fault if we don't like what we see. It's not perfect. And it's not the end all. And I've said that already tonight. It's not the end all. It's not everything. There are many other factors on whether a school is doing their job. And we talked about those. And everything has to be considered. But the question tonight is, do the standardized test scores matter? They do, in the sense that they give us a starting point. They give us something to work with. Here's my final take. Standardized tests are like a flashlight in a dark room. They don't fix the problems, but they show us where the problems are. And if we ignore them, we're walking blind. My friends, accountability is not cruelty. It's clarity. And it's long past the time the educational establishment looked into the mirror and saw the scores and said, instead of trying to find some way to get around them and pretend they don't matter, what they should be saying all the time is, they look at the scores and go, I got an idea. Let's fix it. My name is William Lawson. This has been the Mona Report. Until we see you next time, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.